Thank you, Kun. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dimas Putra, Senior Product Manager from Elsevier, who has been working for Data Monitor in the past 1.5 years. And in this occasion, I'll be presenting with Gertjan and Helen about how pure institutions save time in tracking research data with Data Monitor. Um, as we mentioned before, it's me, Dimas, Gertjan, and Helen. The first one that is the most important thing is why tracking research data with Data Monitor and why research data in general is very important for us in Elsevier and also for many academic institutions out there. What we have been seeing is that research data has become more and more of a high priority. There are multiple funders policies globally. We are seeing it in NIH, also in Europe, about European Commission that explicitly mentioned about not opting out of research data management. And we believe that these funders policies are going to be increasing even more in the coming years. And in Elsevier as well, that we have policies about publishing publications, but with also equipped with research data. And the trends that we're seeing, publications with research data linked to it, are growing fast. As you can see, perhaps it's a little bit too small for the audience in the room, that we see the chart of the number of publication with data that only continues to grow. At the end, it's also very related to funding, which is from the government, that we are seeing that the government and national bodies around the world are adding more and more policies. One of the biggest ones is from the US, from the Office of Science and Technology Policy there. They specifically mentioned that for the funders who would like to fund research, they need to also mandate that these research need to have data management plan linked to it. Also makes a lot of institutions then think research data is becoming more and more important for them. And we're going to talk about Data Monitor, which is available in Pure. I see that some of you in the room have already used the product before. Some of you do not use the product, so it's great a mix here. Data Monitor itself is a tool to help institutions tracking research data. More specifically, we help the data stewards, we help libraries, we help research offices in these academic institutions tracking research data. We are not today specifically helping researchers to search for specific research data, but we are helping institutions, academic institutions, libraries, and research offices to find and track institutions' research data. How we do it is that we have thousands of domain and generalist repository that we harvested. We do clean up and add more information through enrichment. We put it in data monitor corpus, and from the corpus, those institutions are able to get their data from the web application, and most importantly, of course, through the API that is natively integrated in Pure. And we have been learning many feedback from multiple institutions from using Data Monitor. Those are great feedback. And in the product team as well, we value a lot of great feedback coming from the Pure communities. And we wanted to share more about those insights to the community. With that, I'm going to pass this on to Gert-Jan to share insights from the University of Twente.
Thank you, Dimas. Very quick introduction. University of Twente, about 12,000 students, 5,000 staff. We have 2,000 researcher profiles in Pure and not that many data sets, but reason to participate in this project. And the picture is about a month ago, taken a month ago, and the number of data sets has grown already. I'm going to split it in benefits and some findings. The benefits are pretty obvious and clear. Less manual input, better consistency of data, so happy researchers. One central point of information for researchers, but also for management, and also the research output publication being the center of it, and then connected to activities, data sets, and more. Reporting over all of your content, because it's in Pure, much easier. And we chose to do one single dataset description. We call it the master data version 0, and then adding all other versions to the same dataset. It keeps the statistics a bit clearer. And then the findings, well, I have to explain. We search a lot of sources in Data Monitor, and if we search only for our own ID, we get about 800 datasets which would match. If we search for all alternatives, we get more than 4,000 datasets. So there's a dilemma. What are you going to search for? Searching for the correct dataset, then you have all the correct datasets. But if you search for alternatives, it's a lot of work, but you know what you're going to miss. Author matching is based on Scopus ID and ORCID. Usually good, but there still is a problem with persons with double names, middle names in English, but Latin names. You get often twice or duplicates. We see a loss of data between Data Monitor, the source, and Pure. For instance, in the source, the repository, there's funding information. In Data Monitor, there's no funding information. And back in Pure, at least at version 5.28, rolled out today, I hope, there is room for funding information. And also how to deal with collections and supplementary material, not ideal at the moment. Some thoughts about this. Well, conclusions, datasets are very complicated. Really, they are. Affiliation type, the majority is on the university level, but we also see very few on faculty department. But in the dataset, the faculty, the department is named. So why isn't that coming into Pure? And not everything in Data Monitor is a dataset. Give you one example. We saw questionnaires in multiple languages, and the blank questionnaire, let's say in 10 languages, there were 10 entries as dataset, but it was the empty questionnaire. The filled questionnaires, that is the real dataset. So something to consider. And duplicates because of DOI. The DOI is the same, but you have the version number after the slash. So we have to find a way to deal with it. We do it by describing the 0 version or the master version and adding the other DOIs as extra link. And based on our experience, we have some recommendations. We would like to have an expansion of the data fields in Pure for data sets, like type, and funding info, which is coming. We would like to enable multiple DOIs in one description of a data set. So you can add also license information. Now you have one DOI, and the other DOIs, the versions are treated as links. But if you can enter more DOIs, then you can enter the license better. They can differ for every version. And what we noticed is when you start using Data Monitor, you have to think first of a strategy. Because when you do like us, you open it up, you get a lot of data sets coming towards you. And in our situation, there were 43 repositories who contained data from our university. That's a lot. So start with one and then expand it, because you have to manage the expectation. If you say, okay, we're going to use Data Monitor and we're going to add all data sets preferable. And we made a roadmap, and this meets the roadmap of the university. We have our own dataset repository, which is a closed dataset. So it's not public, it is for datasets who have to stay physically on premise, but we use Pure to link it, so the Pure description is complete. And I'm going to hand it over to Helen now.
Hello everyone, I'm Helen Scott and I'm from the University of Manchester Library. I'm the Metadata Manager for Digital and Special Collections there. So one of the responsibilities of my team working with metadata is the curation of metadata and quality assurance of metadata for datasets in Pure. So hence my interest in Data Monitor and the reason I'm here today. So just for a little bit of context, a bit of background to the University of Manchester. We are one of the UK's largest universities. We've got around 40,000 students and around 7,000 research and academic staff. The University of Manchester is part of the UK Russell Group, so a world-class research-intensive university. We've got a particular focus on our 5 research beacons, which are advanced materials, cancer, energy, global inequalities, and industrial biotechnology. As an institution, we've got around 5,000 researcher profiles in Pure currently. And we've got 7,000, well, just over 7,000 data sets. So we've already got quite a lot in Pure, perhaps compared to some other institutions, not surprisingly given the size of Manchester. Most of those 7,000 data sets that we've got in Pure already have been imported or created in Pure over the last 5 years, mainly by library staff or by academic researchers themselves. But more recently, with the integration of Data Monitor, this has enabled the an additional 600 data sets so far. And that has been over the last year since we implemented the Data Monitor integration. So just a bit of background about how it works. Data Monitor is currently harvesting around 35,000 data sets, which are affiliated with the University of Manchester. And as Gert-Jan mentioned in his presentation, when you start using Data Monitor, it can open up a lot of data sets to deal with. So we didn't want to deal with 35,000 to begin with. So we've chosen in the initial stages of integrating Data Monitor to just ingest from Figshare. And that's the University of Manchester's institutional repository since 2021. And this has allowed us to prioritise the content from Figshare, but also to carry out the initial project working with Figshare as a use case. So we've worked with a smaller and a more manageable amount of data and in a more controlled environment. So like Gert-Jan, I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits we've seen and what we see as being the next steps. And not surprisingly, there's been a bit of overlap with the experiences at 20. So it's quite useful to see the common themes that we've come up with. As I mentioned, I work within metadata. So as a metadata specialist, I've particularly seen the benefits that Data Monitor has allowed us to save a huge amount of time in adding the data sets to our CRIS system. It's really streamlined the process and it ensures that we have consistent and current metadata across all the platforms. It reduces the burden on administrative staff and it eliminates the requirement for any input from the researchers themselves. So it really saves them time. In fact, it doesn't take them any time at all. And enhances their researcher profiles on the front end of Pure4us, which is the Research Explorer platform. It enables the discovery and access of research data, which observes the FAIR principles of research data management for best practice of sharing open research. It supports researchers as Demas mentioned in his presentation, to adhere to the funder and publisher policies which require data sharing. So what do we want to do next? Well, we want to do a lot more, both in terms of working with our partners at Data Monitor and Pure to make improvements, but also at Manchester, there's further things that we want to do as an institution in the way we use Data Monitor. As Gertjan mentioned, data versioning is a big challenge for us too, and that's primarily due to the sheer volume of updates that we get. So we really want to refine what prompts an update to be generated in Data Monitor for the import candidate list in Pure. So we get updates that aren't always the true version of an update. So we want to know what is triggering those updates, and we want to manage those better. We also want to improve the way that new versions integrate with existing metadata in Pure. So currently metadata is overwritten with each imported update. And sometimes there'll be data in there that's been manually added, and we can lose that as part of that update process. But I have to say, since creating this presentation, I believe a development on that is in the pipeline, so we're looking forward to that. We'd like to see better transfer of metadata between the repository source and Pure. As I mentioned, sometimes we're still adding some manual fields. We'd like to see everything come across. As many of you will know, or some of you might know, if you work with datasets or research output validations in Pure, one of the really tricky areas, in fact, probably the most tricky area, is author matching. And this often requires rigorous quality checks at the point of import by the metadata teams in the library who are working with Pure. We're really pleased that progress has been made on this with Data Monitor, and there's been recent developments using Scopus and ORCID IDs. And this should really save us a lot of time doing those manual checks and fixing the mismatched authors. Once we've got the process of integrating our research datasets into Pure using Data Monitor refined and fully manageable, we want to explore and expand our use of Data Monitor. First of all, we're investigating how we can use Data Monitor's supplementary material feature to integrate supplementary data from students to showcase the totality of their PhD thesis work in Research Explorer. We also want to use Data Monitor to its full potential by incorporating research data from repositories beyond Figshare. So going back to the earlier slide, I mentioned that we have around 35,000 that are affiliated with Manchester, but we're just ingesting from Figshare at the moment. If we can open up Data Monitors to sources beyond Figshare, I'm sure that the impact will be huge. So we look forward to refining the developments, working further with Data Monitor, and having a big impact on our research data repository. That's everything from me. I believe we've got a short poll, and Demas is going to take over from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. All right, now we have a short poll. It should. And here, as you can see, the question for the poll: is your institution currently tracking research data with Pure? And also why or why not? You can answer the one most relevant to you. So again, are you tracking research data with Pure? Why or why not?
We should start to see some movement, I think.
I think so. All good here? No. Some technical glitch. Oh. I see that. Oh. No. Why not? It's because you haven't started, but you have plans to start. That's great. Assume that's also why you're attending to this session, I hope. always very interesting to me to see the answers for the yes to help monitor compliance of policies, because what I understand in Europe and in the US, the tendency to answer that question is very different. That there are more and more policies related to the funders in that American region compared to the other. And I also know that in Europe is more towards progressing the open data journey. All right, I assume that everybody has voted, so yeah, this is great. And now it's time for the most interesting part, and we only have a few more minutes left, but we are opening the Q&A. Any questions?
Maybe a question from my side then, because I see a lot of the reasons for working with research data sets like compliancy and supporting open data policies. But is there more to it? Is it also like a way of maybe getting like higher probability of getting more funding, or like being able to better showcase expertise to the outside world, or some other benefits that you could see?
That's a very good question, Kun. Anyone from the audience would like to answer that? Because from us in Data Monitor, we believe there are tons of benefits, and by using Data Monitor, at least for me and my team, is all about helping saving the time. As Helen and Gerdian mentioned, that there are still works to do, prioritization need to do, but the hope for us is to help reduce time for people to find and track and curate metadata when doing data sets, because data sets is complicated and sometimes it's messy. So that it is the biggest challenge that we are seeing in improving the open data journey. So that's what we in Data Monitor are working towards. Questions or comments?
I do have a question for Gertjan. You said, Gertjan, collections are problematic, but how are you dealing with them nowadays?
Well, to be very honestly, the very complicated collections we skip for now, and we're just doing the simple stuff just to at least grow the number of data sets, and hoping to learn going on the way to find a policy how to deal with collections. But whatever Pure or Data Monitor can do to describe collections better would help.
And to add to that, what Data Monitor would like to also know is the definition of what collections and supplementary materials exactly are. With those definitions, we could get indicators that say, oh, this is a collection, oh, this is a supplementary material, so that we could tag them. Then we provide that info to you to decide what to do with them. Because I don't think that we are able to action it without knowing which record is supplementary material or collection or not. So I think that definition, in my view, should come together from Elsevier, also from, most importantly, from the research data community.